Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High. It's one of my favorite singing games because it is so well behaved. What does that mean, well behaved? It means all of the phrases stay within the measure. There are no pickups. It means all of the rhythms, ta, ti, ti, rest. Most kids know those. I teach rest all the way back in first grade. So it's a really great song to show. What about the melody? The melody uses do, re, mi, sol, la, so, mi, re, do. It uses a full pentatone, which means there are parts of it that we can use for second grade melody, which we're going to be talking a little bit about today. There are parts of it that you can use for third, fourth, and fifth grade melody because it is an entire pentatone. And as long as they know re, you can have them play the song on xylophones. You can make up ostinato to go along with the song, both of which I'll show you a little bit later. But I want to start with rhythm. I make my own worksheets. I want to show you. What does your school use for projection? I used to have a document camera on a projector and then a pull-down screen. Actually, I used to have overhead projector with those little clear pieces of plastic, but let's not get into any of that. Right now, we happen to have an interactive flat panel screen in IFP. It's a touchable screen like a TV, and then we have a document camera where I can put pieces of paper underneath and interact with them as I'm facing the class right here. Well, I happen to make my own worksheets. This is a piece of paper. This is from Microsoft Word, and I have 2 copies of it so that I can print it out and then cut them in half, and I have half-sheet worksheets. It's just beat dots with the lyrics underneath. The beat dots were made with just a little circle. I've also used hearts for beats, of course, but this is a really great worksheet that you can use for third, fourth, and fifth grade to review ta, ti, ti, and rest at the beginning of the school year. They each get a clipboard and pencil and take this and work in groups. I give them maybe 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. It's not that difficult for kids to be able to draw rhythms. So they're figuring out if there's 2 sounds on a beat, it's a ti-ti, a ti-ti, a ti-ti, all the way to the end. And they have to go ti on the beat dot, a T after it, and then a beam to connect them. Here's a T-T, and then high is just a ta. And what about a beat with 0 sounds? It's a rest. The biggest mistake that some kids make is they see this as a note head, and they draw like this. And they connect them like that's a TT. But that doesn't work because a TT fills only 1 beat. I have them erase it, and then they have to draw only above each syllable. Do, 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 re, and they're not actually touching the beat dot at all because it's a beat dot. It is not a note head. And then instead of having them read mine, I would actually walk out into the class and choose one that's a really good example. Not necessarily that it's perfect, but that it has everything in it that I would want to show. Either it is perfect and we just read it, or maybe there's one particular mistake that I can use as an example. And they would actually read it. I would go, ready, go. T, 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 ta, rest. T, 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 ta, rest. Even better is if the teacher doesn't get involved and it's ready, go, and you stay silent and you have them do it. Whenever the music teacher gets silent, I've noticed kids step up, they sing it louder, or they start singing it instead of being silent. Have you tried that during a singing game? not singing. I know you've seen me in the videos where I'm showing you how to play the game. I'm singing most of the time, but I don't always do that. In fact, if ever I hear the kids starting to get quiet, I stop singing. Let me show you another rhythm element you can teach with this song. Drawing bar lines on a staff is not as easy as drawing bar lines on stick notation because they have to be able to draw it from the top of the staff down to the bottom of the staff and not go past. So there has to be a moment when you are drawing bar lines that you give them something on a staff. And this is a really clear song for 2 meter. So when I am doing 2 meter review in 2nd grade, if they have already done this game, then I will give them this worksheet so that they can draw 2 meter bar lines on a staff. I use Sibelius to make this, and then I printed it out and just added a little 2 meter word right there just to make it more interesting. Then you print this on colored paper and then you cut it in half. When you draw bar lines, do you start at the beginning or do you start at the end? We always start at the very end, and you have to go double bar line, which means the end. What's great about a document camera is I can get really, really close and I can show them exactly what I'm doing. So we have 1 line, a 2nd line, and it does not go beyond. Let's count to 2. Does the rest count? Of course it counts. So we have 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2. Did that work? No, you have to show them that it's not 2 notes. It's not 2 words. It's 2 beats. Here's a beat, 1, and here's a beat, 2, and there is your bar line. Then you can start to pull this out a little bit so that they can see the bigger picture. 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2. Do you draw it at the beginning of the staff? No, you have to go all the way to the end of the line before it. And if you watched our video on what to teach for Dairy Key, it's so that the music doesn't fall out. The music is not going to fall out, obviously, but I use this as a way for them to remember that you have to put it at the end so that the music doesn't fall out. I know it's silly, but it works. And then at some point, you just let them go. 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2, bar line. 1, 2, what do we do here? We don't draw it at the beginning, we draw it at the, and someone will yell out at the end, and they draw it right here at the very end. And then you have them finish it. You can walk around in the class, see what they're doing. This is a great way to assess whether they're getting the idea of bar lines, is when they're working on a worksheet. It's the very few times in music class where you have a moment to work with individual students while the other kids have something that they're doing. So often we are busy leading the game or directly teaching, but if you give them a worksheet for 3 to 5 minutes, then you can work with individual students and see whether they're understanding what you are teaching them about bar lines. What about the meter at the very beginning? What do we draw at the very beginning? What meter are we in? We are in 2 meter. And I put a heart. The reason I don't do 2, 4, but instead do 2 and a heart is the heart represents the beat. When we're talking about 2 meter for 2nd graders, I have not taught them about the 4 yet. I don't actually get to the 4, as in 2, 4 meter, until 3rd grade, where they completely understand meter in 2 meter and 4 meter, and then I get to the 4, 4. When we're just learning 2 meter, I use a heart, 2 meter, 2 and a heart. This is the way that I do it. Of course, you can teach 2, 4 right from the beginning. And now, melody. I have had 5th grade students work out Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain high. When you're on that Rocky Mountain, hang your head and cry. I have had 5th graders work on that melody, but remember we've talked about this before. If I was having a class work on the melody, I would have them only do 1 mallet. Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain high. Or rather, do, 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 mi, do, 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 mi, do, do, mi, so, so. La, so, mi, do, la, so, mi, do, mi, mi, re, re, do. But often I use this song for ostinati. An ostinato is when one group or kid plays or sings or speaks or sings a short phrase while another group or kid or instruments do the entire song. So there are two that work really well. Do, 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 do. Do remember me? You know that part? Do, mi, sol, la, do, mi, sol, la. I like to use this for kids who have already learned do. So it would be a practice lesson for do. Practicing of do. Do, 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 do. Do, mi, sol, la. Do, mi, sol, la. Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain high. When you're on that Rocky Mountain, hang your head and cry. Do, 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 do remember me. Do, 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 do remember me. And I wouldn't have kids usually sing it themselves, although I've done that with older kids. And if you have a class that is advanced, if they can do both, that's great. Because one of the things that's easy about this is it's just one direction and then start over. It's fairly easy. Well, what about this part? How about this one? La, so, mi, do, la, so, mi, do. Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain high. When you're on that Rocky Mountain, hang your head and cry. Do, 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 do remember me. Do, 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 do remember me. And they got to end at the very end of the song. If you can have kids sing that while they're playing, awesome. I'm not sure that I've ever had kids that could do that. Maybe there are enough kids that can do it. I've had group 2 who are sitting out here waiting for their turn to sing it. And if there are kids up here playing the ostinato that sing along as well, that's awesome. But it's really hard to do both at the same time. Speaking of this melody, la, so, mi, do, la, so, mi, do. It is a great way to show kids how to draw a ledger line. Do you have a set of whiteboards for your class? It's a really great way of having kids draw their own music. I bet you have some. Well, how about one of these packets? This is Pocket Pro. I got it at Amazon. And then inside, I put pieces of paper. I have one side that has a bunch of beat hearts that I can have kids work on rhythm. And then on the other side, a single staff. So then kids can draw with whiteboard markers on this staff, or of course on rhythm, and then they can wipe it off. And it makes it a great, easy, fast way so you don't have to photocopy anything to have them draw music. But let me show you la, so, mi, do on a whiteboard. Having kids draw their very own staff is important sometimes. So you have them draw a 5-line staff, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with space underneath. And I sometimes have them start, especially if this is the first time that they've ever drawn a ledger line for do, I start with a so clef, which I let them know a so clef is only for people who don't know what a do clef is. And students who I would be having do this would be an early practice for do, which means the next lesson or 2 lessons after I have presented do for me in 2nd grade. And we would use a so clef, and I would say, let's just start with a so clef on line number 2. Underneath it, just past the so clef, you have to draw L, S, M, D, L, S, M, D, la, so, mi, do, la, so, mi, do, and make sure that it fits. You got to be able to fit 8 letters underneath the staff. And if so is on line number 2, la is on the space above it, and then down to a so, and make sure that it's right above the S. It has to be right above the S. If so is on a line, mi is on the line below it, and if mi is on a line, do is on the line below it. But wait, There isn't a line. So we have to draw a very special line that we only use for this one note, and you draw it right there. Now we know that there's a special line that we can use for do when it's way down here. It is called a ledger line, and I would have them write L-E-D-G-E-R, ledger line. Now that we know that do is on a ledger line, we can erase the so clef, and we can draw a ledger line and a do clef down here. La, so, mi, do. Let's do it again. La, so, mi, do. By the way, this second phrase, when it's repeated, is a great time to go out into your class and assess what's going on, because you showed it on the first phrase, and now you're able to say, go. Do it yourself, and you can see which kids know how to do it and which kids don't know how to do it, and you can help them right there. On occasion, you can take a board if there's a particular mistake that they made that you want everyone to see. And one mistake is people drawing stems sideways, like wind is blowing them over. But we have them draw the stems, they all stick up. Or I ask them, do these stems stick up or down? And they all stick up because they're lower than halfway. Are all of these tas or TTs? When you're on that would be ta. When you're on that are TTs. And whenever you see a beam that goes down like this, that's kind of cool looking, because in stick notation, none of the beams ever go diagonal like this, but on melody they do. La, so, mi, do, la, so, mi, do. And maybe that's when you take them to the xylophones to play it as an ostinato. Or maybe you do that in the change of pace, and you do this as part of the practice of do during a portion that we like to call the moderate concentration. Rocky Mountain is a super simple game, and it's great for teaching melody and rhythm in a lot of really clear ways. I just love Rocky Mountain. I bet you can start teaching it in your class this week, and I'll see you next week here in the music room. Bye-bye.